over to you.
Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen. And hopefully people can see this. So I should start by saying I'm an astronomer by background, not a geographer. Although I will flippantly say that astronomy is a little bit like geography, but looking upwards. So there's a lot of concepts in common with coordinate systems and things like that, and splitting things up into areas. Anyway, over the last few years at ODI Leeds, working on various data projects, I've had to try and get my head around quite a few UK geographies, and they are very complicated, a lot more complicated than everyone often seems to present. This picture here is from the ONS. There's a, if you click through to it, you get a slightly bigger one. Hopefully, can people see my screen? No one said they could.
I can see.
Good, right. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of how complicated UK geography is. It's more complicated than this because not everything is on here. These are things that the ONS has put together. So one of our problems we have is we've got lots of different geographies. There's necessary reasons for all of those. But another problem we have is that the boundaries of them don't necessarily match up. And the different colours here give you an idea of some things that don't necessarily match up. If I go to our Datamapper, so we at mapper.odleeds.org, we try to visualise data sets on Datamill North, Calderdale DataWorks, York Open Data and others that are geographic data sets. We've got a few boundary ones here. These are local authority districts. There's probably people from local authorities here who recognise it. I'll zoom into our part of the country because Leeds, Harrogate, Bradford is a good area that crosses county boundaries, crosses local authorities and has various bits of overlap. So just to give an idea of the shapes and sizes of some things, so local authority districts, these are our local ones. This is Leeds that I've highlighted there. This is Harrogate and Bradford. If we look at postal districts, this has been relevant recently with the NHS 111 data, which I'm sure people go into more detail later. If I zoom in a bit on this Leeds-Harrogate boundary, this one that I've highlighted here is LS17. That is in 2 local authorities and 2 different counties. So some of it is in Leeds and some of it is in Harrogate. Admittedly, there's not a huge number of people living in this chunk that's in Harrogate, and it's dominated by the Leeds chunk. But it means that if you've only got data to for your postcodes to say LS17, it's very difficult to know how to split that into local authorities. Wards, I'll switch to wards, although that's a very big file, so that might take a few seconds to load in. Wards often, although I don't think they necessarily always line up with local authority boundaries, and they can possibly potentially cross. I get confused because every year as well, things are rearranged. So it's important to know which year you're talking about with a geography. Now, if I switch off wards and go to clinical commissioning groups, some data has probably been reported by clinical commissioning groups. The NHS 111 data is aggregated to clinical commissioning group. And this is what they looked like in 2019, if I turn off local authority districts. So you can see Leeds happens to be a CCG that is the same as Leeds as a local authority, but Bradford in 2019 was split up into 3 pieces. There was Bradford City, Bradford Districts, and some of Bradford was in NHS Airedale, Wharfdale and Craven. In April 2020, which is unfortunate timing given the pandemic, things were rearranged. So Bradford now sits in this much larger CCG. So if you're reporting data, one thing I would ask is that you mention which year's definition, and possibly month even, of definition of geography it is that you're publishing, because things can be very different from year to year. And sometimes things keep the same name, but then change the boundaries and might not have the same overlap. Anyway, our Datamapper has quite a few of these things. You can just easily add new layers, and there's a big search thing here if you want to see some things. But another tool that I would definitely recommend is the Office for National Statistics Geoportal, which gives you all sorts of geography files for all sorts of things, and it generally has all the different versions of, say, local authority districts for each year. It's got quite a lot of things on it, so finding things can be quite tricky sometimes, but that is the definitive place to go look. And I think I'll stop because I'm probably saying things that other people are going to be saying.